Full of unions and industry infiltration that became the Lucchese hallmark and made this crime family one of the richest and most successful. While organized criminal groups have always made money with such favors as gambling, prostitution, and extortion, it was mostly after Prohibition that the mob began looking for new rackets to exploit. Tommy Lucchese's outfit was particularly adept at coming up with lucrative new schemes to bring in piles of cash.
They were involved primarily in crimes such as murder, loan sharking, gambling, labor racketeering, obstruction of justice, political corruption. You name it, the Lucchese family was involved in every aspect of New York's economic system.
Lucchese learned that the secret to a successful industry racket is to seize control of a key union, then put the squeeze on the business owners. This tactic was especially effective in the garment and construction trades.
In the case of the garment center, organized crime, the Lucchese family specifically discovered that there's one key to trucking, that's Teamsters Union. There's one Teamsters Union local which represents virtually all the truck drivers in the garment center. Now, if you take control of that local, as they did, now you've got power. Why is it power? Because if the Teamsters Union suddenly goes on strike, nothing moves.
The same was true in construction. As an assistant U.S. attorney, Michael Chertoff learned how the mob operated.
They had the ability through the labor unions to stop a job, to delay a job, to make sure that the concrete was delivered in a manner that would be disruptive to the progress of the job. And they knew that by creating these kinds of problems, they could cost the companies millions of dollars.
Now, we're talking here about hundreds of millions of dollars. We're talking about four families primarily: the Colombo family, the Genovese family, the Gambino family, and the Lucchese family. But the bosses of these four families had 6 general contractors, 6 construction companies that only these companies were allowed to bid on major projects in New York City. For every job that was over $2 million, the contractor that got the contract had to kick back to the families 2%.
The Lucchese leaders took the construction racket a step further than the other families.
The Lucchese family had one little specialty that everybody had overlooked, but they found it. They realized something, which is that if you're making construction-grade concrete, you need stone. Now, it turns out, they discovered, that almost all the stone comes from quarries in Connecticut. Well, they ship it by water, and it comes into Long Island. But there's only one port in Long Island that handles it and then processes it for construction purposes. Perfect scenario. They got control of the stone business.
The Luccheses also monopolized another small but vital union.
The Lucchese family got control of the Plasters Union. It's a small little union. Most people don't even know about it. And it was a union that represented the guys who go in with new construction, and they go in and they have the little hods and the plaster, and they plaster up all the walls before the painters come in. Seems like a simple little thing, right? It's a lot of money.
At its peak, this conspiracy, this enterprise, dominating construction, in effect imposed a tax on every resident of the city of New York, certainly in Manhattan, because there were millions of dollars in excess costs that were built into construction that were designed to produce money to be paid to mobsters. And so every single tenant, every single condo owner, everybody who lived in Manhattan was paying something that was eventually making its way to the mob.
The Luccheses lent new meaning to the old saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. They gained control of the carting industry and hauled in millions.
The World Trade Center at one point, their garbage bill was $1.1 million a year. That's a lot of garbage, but not $1 million worth of garbage. What could the World Trade Center do? They found out there was only one garbage hauler, which would pick up their garbage.
After World War II, Tommy Lucchese infiltrated the garbage hauling industry in the suburbs.
The Carny Industry on Long Island was an interesting industry. There was a trade association made up of the owners of the businesses. There was the union, which was controlled by the Gambino crime family, and then there were dump sites that were controlled by a variety of other individuals and entities. The Lucchese crime family was able to monopolize the industry and not just influence it, not just dominate it, but control it.
The Lucchese family also used the unions to profit from everything going in and out of New York's Kennedy Airport.
JFK Airport, if you look at the airport, it's very easily to see at the cargo aspect of it, tremendous amount of freight going through the airport. And the obvious priority for this freight is to be delivered in a timely fashion. How it gets delivered is by union carrier. So it just follows suit that the LCN saw a wonderful opportunity by controlling the local union.
Some business owners rebelled against the mob, but found themselves fighting a dangerous battle.
There was always the threat of violence. You know, we had tapes where mobsters would sit with contractors and tell them stories about people who had disappeared or people who had gotten beaten. And all this was designed to send the message that it could happen to you.
So let me get this straight. You guys want me to go with your carting company, even though it'll cost me 3 times as much as I was paying at my old location?
That would be the smart thing to do.
What if I say no? What if I don't want to use you guys? You can't force it. Hey, it's a free country, pal. We ain't gonna make you do nothing you don't want to do.
That's right. This is a business decision that you've got to make. You familiar with Alden Supply Company?
Yeah, they're across the street.
That's right, Ken Strauss, the owner. What's he been missing for about a month now? One day he just didn't come home from work.
The problem was that Kenny made some bad business decisions.
They divvied up private businesses such as the carting business or concrete business for themselves. They ran their businesses contrary to the American way. They ran it their way. They enforced their control over businesses and industries with fear.
For over 3 decades, Tommy Lucchese ran his criminal empire to great success without getting knocked off or imprisoned. He also successfully kept his personal family well insulated from his Mafia family. He died of natural causes, and after his death, his surviving relatives actually changed the spelling on his tombstone to keep outsiders away. Before he died, Lucchese had one last bit of underworld business to tend to, picking a successor to run the organization. His choice, with approval by the commission, was a protege from the old neighborhood in East Harlem, Anthony Corrado. Even more than his predecessor and mentor, Anthony Corrado's background was pure hoodlum, as former prosecutor Ronald Goldstock learned.
Corrado was an individual who came up through the family, through violence. People understood that. People were afraid of him. He was a person that was respected, and so for him to head the family was not surprising.
There was only one thing standing in the way of a smooth transition of power. Corrado was heading to a prison sentence on a bribery conviction, an unusual event for the mobster nicknamed Tony Ducks for his ability to duck the law.
Corrado was a person who believed in murder as a means of accomplishing their ends. He was an individual who grew up understanding what power meant and physical violence could do, and he practiced that from the time that he began criminal activities through his years as a labor racketeer into controlling the family.